If someone had driven past Maple Crest Lane that afternoon in Columbus, Ohio, they would have seen a quiet scene that could have been printed on a postcard. A white two-story house with blue shutters, a porch swing that creaked in the wind, and a yard that always looked neat from far away, even though the grass had thin patches up close. On the outside, everything looked calm. Inside that house, my whole world was tightening like a fist. My name is Lauren Hayes, and for most of my life, I was the steady hand in a family that never saw me. I kept count of bills, groceries, due dates, medical charges, repair receipts, and tuition payments. I held the invisible threads together while my parents praised my younger brother for every tiny thing he did. If you asked them who carried the family, they would point to Adam without blinking. They always did. Adam was 26, tall, charming, and constantly drifting from job to job like wind passing through a screen door. 2 months at a car dealership, then he quit because the manager didn't respect his potential. 3 months at a gym, then he left because the schedule was too strict. My parents always defended him, telling him he deserved better and telling me to be more supportive. I was 29 when everything came crashing down. I had just finished a long morning working in my small upstairs bedroom. That room, with its pale yellow walls and old window that stuck when the humidity rose, was the one place in the house where I could breathe. I was checking one last email when I heard Mom call me downstairs with a voice so sweet I instantly knew it meant trouble. When I walked into the living room, the television was muted on some bright show with smiling hosts, and Mom was sitting on the edge of the couch like she was waiting to announce a prize. Dad stood with his arms crossed by the window, pretending to look at something outside. Adam entered behind me, keys jangling in his hand and a smug grin stretching across his face. "I got the job," he said dramatically, like a hero in a movie. $60,000 a year, plus bonuses. Mom jumped up, clapping. Dad slapped him on the back. Their voices were full of pride, so sharp it almost hurt to hear. "That is your company, right?" Mom asked me. "The one you kept sending his applications to. What is your friend's name again?" "Carter." I swallowed.
"Yeah."
"Carter Holdings. I just recommended him."
"A lie."
"A small one, but it slid out easily because my parents never cared enough to ask what I actually did for work. They believed I typed simple emails in an office and was lucky to have a desk job. They never imagined I would build something big. Something they couldn't even picture. "Finally," Dad said with relief. "We have someone successful in the family." I stared at him. "I've been working full-time for years." He waved a dismissive hand. "You sit in front of a screen, Lauren. Anyone can do that. This is different. $60,000. Real money. Real money. As if the money I earned didn't count. As if the bills I had paid for them didn't matter. The hospital bill from Dad's fall? The mortgage payment during Dad's layoff? The groceries I bought every week? All invisible." Then Mom stood and looked at me with a coldness I hadn't seen before. "Lauren," she said, "we need to talk about you staying here." My stomach dropped. "What about it?" "You are a burden on us," she said plainly. "We do not need you in this house anymore. Your brother can take care of us now. You are almost 31. It is time you leave." I looked at her, then at Dad, then at Adam. He shifted uncomfortably, but stayed silent. He didn't defend me. He didn't even pretend to care. "You're throwing me out?" I whispered.
Dad didn't flinch.
"You always talk about wanting independence. Here it is. We are done carrying you." Carrying me. The words hit like a slap. I thought about every bill I had covered without being asked. About the nights I skipped meals so the fridge would stay full. About the $400 I sent Mom when she wanted that new sofa. None of it mattered. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I went upstairs, packed my belongings in 3 boxes, and carried them down to my silver hatchback. My hands shook, but my face stayed calm. Years of silence had trained me well. Mom stood at the porch railing while I loaded the last box. "Do not look at us like that," she said. "Family invests in the child, who can give something back." I looked up at her, and something inside me finally went still. "You're right," I said softly. "Family does show where it wants to invest." She blinked, not understanding. She wouldn't understand for a long time. I got into my car, turned the key, and drove away from the house that had never felt like home. My parents thought they had just thrown out a burden. They thought they were choosing their golden son and letting go of dead weight. But what they didn't know was simple. They had just pushed out the woman who signed Adam's paychecks. They had no idea I was the person whose company had hired him. No idea I was the one with the money. No idea I was the one holding all the power. And soon they would learn. The hard way. The first time I realized I could never let my parents know the truth about my work, I was 24 and sitting on a wobbly bar stool in my tiny rented apartment kitchen on the edge of downtown Columbus. The place looked like something out of a cheap rental listing. Thin carpet. A kitchen light that flickered when the microwave was on. Pipes that groaned at night, like the building was sighing. But it was mine, and that mattered more than anything. Back then, I worked as a junior analyst at a small marketing agency. My salary was $41,000 a year, just enough to cover rent, groceries, and the bills I still helped my parents with. I wasn't anyone special at that company. I filed reports, analyzed data, and answered emails like a quiet little machine. But at night, when my coworkers were watching shows or going out, I opened my laptop and stepped into a world my family didn't know existed. I joined online groups full of people from America and Europe who were building businesses from scratch. Some ran small stores, some did graphic design, some created online courses. They were tired, hopeful, and ready to bet everything on themselves. That energy pulled me in. I started reading everything I could find about ads, digital campaigns, web funnels, and the psychology behind selling. The idea came slowly, almost quietly. I noticed that so many small online shops struggled with their advertising. They wasted money on messy ads, confusing websites, and targeting that made no sense. They didn't need huge agencies. They needed someone who understood data and could turn clicks into actual money. I knew how to do that. So, I built a tiny side service offering complete digital marketing support for small brands. Nothing fancy. No big promises. Just me, my laptop, and a second-hand desk I bought for $40 from a couple moving to Chicago. I chose the name Carter Ridge Media because it sounded sturdy and boring. I liked that. People trusted sturdy and boring. Carter sounded like a serious man in a gray suit, and I wanted clients to feel safe before they knew anything about me. My first client wired $800 for a 2-month campaign. I still remember that moment. Seeing the payment hit my new business account felt like someone handing me the first brick of a house I never thought I could build. When I launched their campaign, their sales tripled. They told 2 other owners. Those owners told more. Within a year, I earned an extra $30,000. Still small, still inconsistent, but enough to show me this was real. Meanwhile, my parents thought I was doing little computer side jobs. They called it cute. They liked that I stayed busy. They did not ask questions. If they ever sensed money, they would try to control it. My mother once learned I got a $2,000 bonus, and by evening, she had pointed out 3 new appliances she wanted. She said families share good fortune, though she never said the same when I worked late hours or paid bills they forgot. So I kept my work quiet.
Safer that way.
As Carter Ridge Media grew, everything changed. I hired 2 remote assistants, one in New York and one in London, after revenue crossed $400,000. I hired a full-time developer in Chicago. I ran product launches, created marketing strategies, fixed broken funnels, and handled clients who trusted me more than my own family ever had. I was 28 when I quit my day job. My parents assumed I'd been fired. Mom tried to comfort me by telling me to stay with them until I got back on my feet. She offered to let me return to the small bedroom I shared with my sister in high school. She said it like she was being generous. I didn't argue. I accepted the room, but paid them $600 every month in rent. They didn't ask how I could afford it. They were too busy worrying about Adam's life. He was in one of his jobless phases, complaining about not finding anything worthy of his talent. He said retail work was beneath him and that office jobs were too boring. Mom cried about how hard it was for young men in America, while ignoring the fact that her daughter had worked since college. Then one night, While checking numbers on my laptop, I made a decision that would change everything. I created a new job position at my company, Junior Account Manager. Salary is $60,000 and bonuses are possible. Responsibilities are simple but structured. A job with a clear path upward if the person actually worked. I wrote the offer letter carefully. Dear Adam Hayes, we are pleased to offer you the position of Junior Account Manager at Carter Ridge Media. I sent it to him from the company hiring address, copied myself, and waited. The next morning, he ran into the kitchen waving his phone like a winning lottery ticket. Lauren, he breathed, your boss's boss offered me a job. This is huge. I kept a straight face.
Wow.
That's great. He talked for 15 minutes about how this proved his potential. He bragged about the salary, the future bonuses, and his new career. He hadn't even started yet. Mom cried tears of pride. Dad smacked him on the back again. They had no idea I had created the job. They had no idea the CEO they kept praising was sitting 5 feet away, eating cold cereal in silence. The strangest part was how quickly they forgot I existed. They treated Adam's new job like the second coming of hope. Every dinner turned into a celebration of him. Mom kept saying, "Our son will take care of us now." Dad kept talking about how proud he was of the man of the family. And the whole time, they didn't know the truth. They didn't know Adam worked for me. They didn't know his salary came from me. They didn't know that every month I signed his paycheck myself. They certainly didn't know I had already bought a condo across town for $285,000, preparing for the day I would need to walk away completely. I thought I had time before that day came. But life had other plans. The morning they threw me out felt like one of those quiet moments before a storm, when the sky is flat gray and the air feels heavy. I spent the first half of the day in my upstairs bedroom, the same room with the uneven floor and the old wallpaper that had faded around the window frame. I had been on 2 video calls with a client in New York, finalizing the last steps of a holiday campaign. When the deal closed at $120,000, I ended the call with a tired smile and sat back in my chair. It was the kind of win I could never mention downstairs.
Not to them.
I stretched my shoulders, rubbed my eyes, and walked toward the door. That was when I heard it. Laughter drifted up the staircase. My mother's sharp laugh. My father's heavier one. And Adam's voice mixed in, bright and proud. For a second, foolishly, I thought they might be celebrating something for me. Maybe the loan I paid last month without telling them. Maybe the grocery bags I dropped off last week. Maybe they finally noticed something I did. But when I stepped into the living room, all 3 of them turned toward me with a strange look. Not warm, not excited. Something else. Something settled and final. Dad pointed at the couch like he was directing an employee. Sit down. I stayed standing. What's going on? Adam smirked and pulled a folded paper from his pocket. I knew that paper even before he unfolded it. His contract. The one I signed at midnight in my home office months earlier. The one he believed came from a man named Carter. I signed the final version, he said proudly. They're keeping the salary at $60,000. But there's talk of a raise after 6 months. And Mr. Carter thinks I could move up fast. Mom squeezed his arm, her eyes glowing like she had given birth to a king. Our son, she said. Finally, someone who can hold this family. Then she looked directly at me, long enough for her meaning to sting. The message was clear. I was not someone who held the family together. I was the one they would let fall if they had to choose. I swallowed hard. You know I pay rent here, I said calmly. And I covered the mortgage when it was late last winter. And the hospital bill when Dad slipped on the ice. Dad frowned and waved a hand like he was brushing off dust.
We didn't ask you to do all that, he said.
You chose it. He stepped closer, lowering his voice in a way that pretended to be gentle but wasn't. Lauren, listen. You've lived under our roof for years. You sit upstairs doing your little computer work and your tiny projects. That's fine. But your brother now has a real career. He is our future. Mom nodded, her mouth tightening. We talked about it, she said. You are a burden now. We don't need you in this house anymore. You can pack your things and leave today. The word burden landed like a stone in my chest. Heavy, slow, impossible to lift. I looked at Adam, waiting for even the smallest sign that he might defend me, that he might say I wasn't a burden, that he might at least appreciate the job he thought he earned. He shrugged. "They're just being practical," he said. "You can handle yourself. You're good at stuff." Stuff. Years of work. Years of paying their bills. All reduced to stuff. They were throwing me out on the same day they were celebrating a job I had created for him. A salary I had chosen. A career he only had because I stayed up night after night building something they never cared about. "Do you know how much I make?" I asked quietly. Dad gave a short, dismissive laugh. "Enough to buy your little car and some clothes. This isn't a contest. We're done talking. Pack." My throat burned, but I kept my face steady. "Fine." I turned and walked upstairs. My heart was pounding, but my hands moved fast. Clothes, laptop, my notebooks, my chargers, 2 blankets, and the dishes I bought myself. I left everything that had any tie to them. Childhood photos, yearbooks, old medals, the framed picture Mom gave me years ago. If they wanted to erase me, I would make it easy. When I carried the first box down the stairs, Mom stood at the door holding it open like she couldn't wait to be rid of me. The cold air hit my face when I stepped onto the porch. "You'll thank us one day," she said. "This is for your own good." I looked at her for a long moment. "No," I said. "This is for your comfort." She flinched, then forced her chin up. "You always were dramatic. That's your problem." I carried the box to my silver hatchback and set it inside. The weight of it wasn't even half of what I felt in my chest. Adam came out with my second box. He still wouldn't look at me. "You'll still recommend me for that promotion, right?" he asked in a low voice. "It would mean a lot." I stared at him, stunned. "You really don't understand anything," I said softly. He frowned. "What is your issue?" "I didn't throw you out. That's between you and them. I've got enough going on with this new job." I almost laughed. Then I closed my trunk. "This is the last time you'll carry anything of mine." The drive to my condo felt like crossing a line I'd been walking for years. When I pulled into the underground garage of the brick building, something inside me finally loosened. My unit on the 3rd floor still smelled like paint. The sofa was secondhand. Half the shelves were empty. But it was mine. Every inch of it belonged to me. I closed the door behind me, leaned against it, and let myself cry for the first time all day. Not because they pushed me out, but because I had let them treat me like I owed them something. When the tears stopped, I wiped my face, opened my laptop, and signed into my system. My hand didn't shake as I typed. Adam Hayes, Junior Account Manager. Status, active. I stared at the words for a long moment. Then I changed it. Status, under review. And this time, I felt no guilt at all. The next morning, the city felt like a different place even though nothing around me had changed. The same gray sky hung over Columbus. The same steady traffic hummed outside my condo building. The same small cafe on the corner had its lights glowing through the windows. But as I stepped out of my own front door, into a home I paid for with my own money, something inside me felt taller, steadier, almost new. I made coffee in the quiet kitchen, the kind of quiet that didn't come with tension or judgment. The condo still looked half empty, with bare walls and simple furniture, but it felt honest. It felt like a place where I could finally breathe. I sat at the small dining table and opened my laptop. Emails waited in my inbox. Client updates, staff questions, and reports that needed my approval. I handled them one by one, giving each the attention it deserved. But even while I worked, I felt the weight of one unfinished task sitting in the back of my mind. Adam's employee profile. I clicked on it. His performance records opened across my screen. The same numbers I had ignored for weeks before everything fell apart. Missed deadlines. Incomplete reports. A client is complaining about his forgetting to send updates. Another said he never answered messages on time. My operations manager had written 2 warnings. She didn't know he was my brother. She didn't know the story behind his job. All she saw was an employee who did not take the work seriously. If he had been anyone else, he would have been let go already. My phone buzzed on the table. A message from Mom appeared on the screen, blunt and cold. "Do not contact us until you apologize." I stared at the words for a moment. The same woman I had supported for years. The same woman who threw me out without a second thought. Now she wanted an apology. I put the phone face down on the table and opened a new email template. Subject: Change in employment status. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before I finally began to write. I kept my tone professional, the same tone I used with every other employee. Dear Adam, after reviewing your performance over the past 3 months, leadership at Carter Ridge Media has decided to terminate your employment effective immediately. Your final paycheck will include payment for all hours worked to date. Access to internal tools will be removed within the next hour. We wish you the best in your future endeavors. Sincerely, Lauren Hayes, Chief Executive Officer, Carter Ridge Media. I paused at the last line. For the first time, I didn't hide behind some made-up name or pretend boss. I put my full title right there, where he couldn't miss it, where my parents couldn't deny it. I clicked send. Silence. For 10 long seconds, nothing happened. Then my phone lit up with Adam's name. I didn't answer. He called again, and again, and again. On the 4th call, I picked up and placed the phone on speaker. "What did you do?" he yelled the moment the call connected. "What the hell, Lauren? They fired me. They said the CEO made the final call." "What did you tell them?" "I didn't tell anyone anything," I said calmly. "I read your performance reports. Then I acted as the CEO." There was a long pause. A heavy, confused silence. "What are you talking about?" he asked. "What CEO?" "I own Carter Ridge Media." He let out a shaky laugh.
No.
"No, you sit in a bedroom and type. You're not a CEO." "Check the email again," I said. "Look at the signature. Then search the company registration. My name is on every document. It has been for years." I heard him type on his keyboard. The silence that followed wasn't confusion anymore. It was a realization. Then something crashed on his end. A chair, maybe. "You stole this from me," he said, voice tight. "You ruined my life." "You're an adult," I replied. "You had a good job. You treated it like another toy. You didn't do the work. Any owner would have fired you." "You can't do this," he shouted. "I'm all they have now. Mom and Dad are counting on me. Then you should have worked like someone people can count on." He cursed and hung up. A minute later, Mom called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, her voice sharp and furious. "How dare you ruin your brother's future? Who do you think you are? He finally had something and you tore it away out of jealousy. You should be ashamed." I stopped the message before she finished. My own mother's anger didn't surprise me anymore. It only confirmed what I already knew. I opened a blank document on my laptop and typed 3 simple lines. "I am the woman you called a burden. I am the one who paid your bills. I am done." I didn't send it. I didn't need to. I just needed to see it with my own eyes. The next few weeks passed slowly. My phone rang often, first with anger, then with panic. Dad left a message about the mortgage payment being late again. Mom called, crying about how everything was falling apart. Adam sent screenshots of job rejections and begged me to write recommendations. I didn't answer a single one. Not out of cruelty. Out of self-respect. I put my energy into my company instead. I hired a new account manager, a single mother from Detroit who worked harder in her first month than Adam had in all his time with us. I trained her myself, gave her fair pay, and watched her grow with pride. I spent evenings decorating my condo. A deep blue sofa, a wooden table from a small American shop, art from a European photographer. Bit by bit, the space felt more like home. Sometimes I drove past Maple Crest Lane. The house looked smaller each time. The paint looked duller. The roses wilted. I didn't stop. I didn't stare. I just kept driving. Revenge, I learned, isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. A line drawn inside your own heart. They said I was a burden. They pushed me out. But I was the backbone. And they broke their own foundation when they threw me away. Now, when people ask why I don't speak to my family, I just smile and say, they didn't know who they were throwing out. And by the time they learned, I had already walked into a better life. Because I'm the owner. And they're no longer part of my story.